You take your first breath alone, but you did not arrive alone. For nearly every other mammal on Earth, birth is a solitary act. A deer walks into the underbrush by herself. A cat finds a quiet closet. She does not call for help. She does not need it. Your ancestors could not do that. For roughly 6 million years, since the earliest hominins stood upright on 2 legs, the human body has been fighting itself. One evolutionary pressure pushed your pelvis narrower for efficient walking and running. Another pushed your skull bigger for the brain that would eventually write poetry and build cities. These 2 pressures collided directly at the one place they both had to pass through: your birth canal. Anthropologists call this the obstetrical dilemma. It is not a metaphor, it is a physical bottleneck, and every single human who has ever been born has passed through it. So how did a species with the tightest fit between baby and passage in the animal kingdom survive long enough to become the dominant species on the planet? The answer is not medicine. Medicine is recent. The answer is older than language itself. Anthropologist Wenda Trevathan spent decades studying this question, and her research points to something radical. Human childbirth became fundamentally social. Not just difficult, social. She proposed that human babies, because of the twist and turn their bodies make on the way out, are usually born facing away from the mother. A chimpanzee mother can reach down, guide her own baby out, clear its airway herself. A human mother, anatomically, mostly cannot. She would have to bend her spine in a way the body does not easily allow to reach a baby exiting in the wrong orientation for self-delivery. Which means for most of human history, someone else had to be there. Picture it, not a hospital room, a rock shelter, or the shade beneath a baobab tree, or the inside of a hide tent stretched over bent branches. A fire burning low nearby. Grassland stretching orange and gold toward the horizon as the sun drops. A woman in labor, and around her, not silence, but other women. An older woman who has done this before, maybe a mother or an aunt, pressing warm hands to a lower back. A younger woman fetching water. Voices, low and steady, timing contractions the way modern doulas still do today. This was not a hospital procedure, it was kinship in action. Anthropologist Karen Rosenberg, working alongside Trevathan, helped build out this picture using skeletal evidence. By comparing the pelvic width of fossil hominins like early Homo erectus to the presumed skull size of their infants, researchers reconstructed just how tight this fit was becoming, over 1 million years before anesthesia, before forceps, before anyone had ever written down a single word. Tight enough that assistance was not a luxury, it was survival. Here is where the story gets stranger. In 2016, researcher Holly Dunsworth challenged part of this picture. She argued the obstetrical dilemma was not only about pelvis width fighting brain size. Human babies, she found, are actually born at roughly the developmental stage you would expect for a primate our size, based on metabolic constraints, not some evolutionary trade-off gone wrong. In other words, evolution was not sabotaging itself. It found a solution. And the solution was not to make birth easy. The solution was to make sure nobody ever had to do it alone. Think about what that means. Long before there were words for midwife, before there were words at all, the pressure to survive birth was quietly shaping something enormous. Cooperation, trust, the instinct to show up for someone else's pain. Now reconstruct that day fully. The contractions come faster. The older woman kneels behind the laboring mother, supporting her weight, because upright, squatting positions use gravity and open the pelvis wider than lying flat ever could. This is not guesswork. Cross-cultural studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies, including the Juhwansi people of the Kalahari studied extensively by anthropologists, working alongside Trevathan's framework, show upright birth positions appearing again and again across cultures with no contact with one another. It is not fashion, it is function, discovered independently over and over, because bodies do not lie. The baby arrives facing backward, just as Trevathan predicted. Careful hands, not the mother's own, guide the shoulders free. Someone clears the airway. Someone wraps the baby against skin still warm from the womb. And here is the detail that gets lost in modern retellings. That birth attendant was rarely, if ever, a stranger. She was family. She would very likely become this child's aunt in practice, its protector, one more adult bound to it for life. This is the twist most people never hear. We tend to imagine ancient life as brutal, isolated, every family fending for itself against a hostile world. But childbirth tells a different story. It suggests that from the very moment a human enters the world, we were never built to survive alone. We were built to need each other immediately, physically, in the most vulnerable minute any of us will ever experience. That need did not disappear when hospitals were built. It just changed shape. Today, a birth might happen under fluorescent lights instead of firelight, with a doctor instead of an aunt, with monitors instead of a hand pressed to the back. But the core fact has not moved an inch in 6 million years. Human birth still, overwhelmingly, involves other people. A partner in the room, a nurse checking in, a grandmother calling from another state waiting by the phone. Even now, with every tool modern medicine can offer, almost nobody chooses to do this completely alone, and the data on maternal and infant outcomes still shows that support during labor measurably matters. Doulas today, hired for the exact same job that older female relatives performed for hundreds of thousands of years, are associated with shorter labors and lower rates of complications in multiple clinical studies. You did not evolve to arrive in this world unassisted. Nothing about your body was built for that. Every human being alive today, without exception, is descended from an unbroken line of successful assisted births, stretching back further than agriculture, further than language, further than fire. Somebody was always there. So when you think about what makes humans different from every other animal on this planet, you do not have to look toward tools, or cities, or written history. You can look at the very first minute of every human life. A moment that has never, not once in 6 million years, been designed to happen alone. You took your first breath alone. But you did not arrive alone. Somebody made sure of that. Somebody has always made sure of that.